In this session, we are going to talk about physician orders. This is the order entry that you will now do electronically through Matrix. To access the orders, we'll go back to the Resident tab, same place that we found vitals, progress notes, events, and observations. We'll come down the list about halfway down and we find one that says orders. Once we're on the orders page, here's the resident information at the top, and below that we have administration notes, information, add order, and some blue hyperlinks down here. Now, starting at the top, the administration notes, this is a great place to put information regarding the resident's medication administration. A prime example of something that needs to go in this space right here would be if the resident had an order to crush their medications. The information right below it would be something about the resident that would be helpful in the caregiving of that resident. For example, the resident's a Hoyer lift, or maybe they're on thickened liquids, or they're hard of hearing and their left ear approached them from the right side. Things like that would be valuable to have in the information spot. They will also be listed as orders down below once we put them in. But these two areas right up here, when you move forward to EMAR and are passing medications electronically, the administration notes and the information will show up directly below the resident's picture while you're passing the medications. So it's a good reference guide, and it's a quick reference, whether or not they can be crushed and the personal information about that resident. And we'll get to those here in just a little bit. At the very bottom, we have search order history as one of the hyperlinks. This is where we could look at all discontinued orders. Mark signed orders, you don't have to worry about that. Add order links. This one is important, especially if you're on physician orders, but you have not converted to EMAR yet, so you're still using your paper MAR. Add order links will allow us to link certain orders together so that when we print them on the MAR, they show up one right below the other. This comes in real handy and is pertinent to, let's say, a give and a read annual PPD. Also, it's nice to link your orders if you have a NEB treatment, to link them with the observe orders before, during, and after, so that it's all one nice, neat little package. And finally, we have amend orders, which would allow us to amend any orders. So we're going to start with the admission orders for Mr. Santa Claus. So I'm going to come over here to the right, and I'm going to click Add Order. After I click Add Order, it is asking me for the type of order that I want to choose. So if I click on my drop-down menu, I have some options to choose from. Prescription, this will be, all prescription orders will be entered as a prescription. It's very important that we do this. The prescription orders will automatically transmit to the pharmacy when we are using our contracted pharmacy. So if the resident's using a CVS or a Walgreens or Kroger or any personal pharmacy, it's good to keep in mind that orders will not transmit automatically to those pharmacies, only to our contracted one. Below that is a general order. So a general is a blank template. Literally, you can make it say whatever you want it to say. Lab is where we'll put in all of our lab orders. Radiology. And then below those four, we have a long list of standard orders. Now, these are all pre-built orders for you to eliminate a lot of typing that you'll have to do, and also to make it more streamlined and to keep our language consistent from building to building. So if we look at the different categories of standard orders, we have admission. So if we're working with a brand new admission, this is where we start. We want to start with the admission orders. Below that, we have dietary. So this is where you'll find the resident's diet, document mLs, supplements. All of those are located in dietary. The side effects list, this comes in very handy. Instead of the generic order that used to be on the rewrites that would just say monitor for any side effects of a psychoactive medication, we have built the very specific side effects for every drug that we have. So if you have an anticonvulsant, anti-anxiety, antipsychotic, hypnotic, anticoagulant, methylphenidate, lithium, a routine pain medication, then you will find those side effects listed here that we will add as an order. Below that is diabetic. The diabetic standard orders are, you can find AccuChecks in here. You can find your hypo and hyperglycemic protocols. Positioning and devices, that's where you'll find your side rails, your non-skid strips, different types of mattresses, all of those under positioning and devices. Respiratory standard orders, this is where you will find all of your observe before, during, and after, your change neb tubing, ear protectors, oxygen orders. IV pick and central line, that's where you'll find all your IV pick and central line orders. Same with enteral feeding, same with your cath and ostomy, trach orders, dialysis orders, and then finally, physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy. So those are all pre-built in here as well. We are working on Santa Claus as an admission, so we are going to start with which orders. That is right. We'll start with the admission orders. So I'm going to click on that. Below it, we have associated event. Now, if you remember back in the event and observation video where we could add or associate vital signs and progress notes to the hot charting that we're currently doing, this allows us to link the order to the hot charting as well. Now, you could do that from the event page. You did have a section for vitals, for orders, and for progress notes. So you could have associated the order that way. Or when entering it for the first time, say if this was a prescription order, we could pick the hot charting that it was associated with. Infection control, something like that. So, standard orders admission. We'll come down here and we're going to click next. Now, before we get started, I'm going to need you to get on the same page as me. I am aware that our resident admitted on 11/6/2015 per the face sheet. These are training videos and they take a long time to record. So today's date is 11/9. Let's all pretend that our admission date is 11/9. It's going to make this much easier for us. So upon admission, I was doing this on time after the resident came in. The first order that is asking me right here, it says code status, full code, or DNR. All right, so if we remember right, Santa was a full code. I need to wake this order up and I need to add it to the resident's profile. To do that on these standard orders, each one of them has this black bar across the top, and to the left of it, it says add general orders to resident. If I check that box, it wakes the order up. So our resident was admitted today. So my receive date would be today. Received by is going to be my name. Start date would be today as well. Our end date, right now, it says open-ended and there's a check mark. That's accurate because there's no stop date for this code status. If you had an order, a prescription order or a treatment order that did have a stop date, this is where you would enter it for your order. So for the order description right now, code status, I have full code and DNR as options. If you look, I can only type inside this box. So what I'm going to do is remove everything that does not belong. Now it just says code status, full code. Right below that we have disciplines. Do not worry about this disciplines box. We do not use it. We'll keep moving down. In the standard orders, the frequencies are built for us already. So everything in a standard order, when you're waking them up, you do not need to change the frequencies. Leave them as is. We made this very, very easy for you. Leave the frequency alone, and if needed, we can manipulate some of the information down here. But for 95% of these, we don't need to do that. All we have to do, wake it up, make sure that our dates are correct. The order description, I made sure it read exactly how I wanted it to. My frequency, I'm leaving alone. The description says FYI, has a start time of 1 a.m. If something is an NA or an FYI, that overrides this little section right here that says 1 a.m. So don't be confused by that time right there. The reason we can keep this order as an FYI is because we never sign off on a code status. Okay, it's just part of the information that needs to be in there for the resident. Below that we have repeats on, and right now we have no options. We'll get into this here shortly. Special instructions, again, we will talk about this more here in just a little bit. Tasks to record. We have temperature, pulse, respirations, blood pressure, and O2 sats. Now on here, the reason these are split up into two separate categories, the second being med notes, where we have breath sounds, MD notified, yes or no, minutes, mLs, results milligram per deciliter, site, units, and yes or no. These are all pre-built rows that we added for you guys. So if we ever needed to use one of these, say this was an order that required me to take a temperature when I took the order, or to take a blood pressure or a pulse, then I could select one of these, and when I go to print my MAR, or if I'm on EMAR, this vital will show up for me to answer as well as signing off on the order. In this case, I don't need those, but we'll use some here in just a little bit. The flow sheet down here at the bottom, category we do not use, so don't worry about it. The flow sheet says medications. So we have set these to go exactly where we want them to go. So in just a few examples that we'll talk about specifically, this never needs to be changed on the admission orders. So the flow sheet is medications, that's where we're going to leave it. Ordered by, and it's telling me to select one. So if I look, I can either pick my attending MD or the nurse practitioner. So I'm going to go with the attending MD. So now that order is done. So to recap, all I did, because I'm going to start moving quickly after we get done with this one, I checked the box to wake it up, made sure my dates were right, made sure my order description read exactly how I wanted it to. My frequency was NA, or FYI, so I'm good there. It was already set to go to medications, and all I had to do was pick my attending MD. So 9 times out of 10 when you're doing this, that's all you have to do on these standard orders. Just wake them up, make sure your dates are good, and they say exactly what they're supposed to say. It's very, very easy. So the next thing in line says, may go LOA with responsible party and medications. Yes. I wake it up. My dates are good. Today was the admission day. Remember, we're pretending on this one. No stop date. It already has NA, or not applicable, or FYI, for my frequency, so I'm good. I don't need any special instructions. I don't need any vital signs or med notes. It's automatically set to go to the general flow sheet, so I'm good there. Select one. I picked my attending MD, and I keep moving. May be seen by podiatrist, dentist, optometrist, and audiologist. Yes. My dates are good. I'm not going to touch anything in the order description. I leave it as is, unless the resident refused to be seen by, say, an audiologist. I could just remove that portion of the description. NA is my frequency, so I'm good there. I keep moving down. I don't need any vital signs or med notes. It's automatically going to my general flow sheet, which is good. Ordered by our attending MD. Now, flow sheet at this point, you might be saying, what is a flow sheet? What does that mean? So with the flow sheet, we have multiple options to choose from. The flow sheets are certain groups of orders that we have. So a general flow sheet would be all the general information for a resident, such as the things we've talked about so far, other than the code status. The code status, if you remember, was set to go to medications. That's where we want it. We want the code status to show up on the meds, because if you're using the paper MAR, we want that order to be in front of you. The other options that we have in here, ADLs, we have anticoagulants. So any of our anticoagulant medications, Coumadin, warfarin, Xarelto, Pradaxa, those will go on the anticoagulant flow sheet. That way it's easier for us to track them. So if we group them all in the same place, it makes it easier for you as a nurse to know where things are at in the MAR, as well as when we need to track things, it's easier for us to find them. Behavior, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Diabetic, so all of our diabetic orders, insulins and Accu-Checks will go here. Any oral medications that are used for diabetes will stay on the medication flow sheet. Dietary, so our diet, our supplements, our bedtime snack, those things will go on dietary. Documentation. This flow sheet is for all shift-based orders that would normally go on your MAR. So for instance, the side effects that we talked about earlier in the types of orders, those side effects are all shift-based. We monitor around the clock on side effects. And those side effects would typically go on your MAR with the medications. So anything that would fall on the MAR, that is Q shift, we're going to put on documentation. And that's across the board. If we had a dietary order, such as document in mLs all fluids with MedPass, and every shift documents that, we would want that on documentation. Once you get to EMAR, you'll really understand the importance of this flow sheet because it takes away all those shift-based orders from your very specifically timed orders. So it keeps everything a lot nicer and cleaner inside of EMAR. Enteral is where we'll put all of our enteral orders. Enteral meds we do not use. FIT program, as nursing staff, we do not use this one. General flow sheet, again, that's all of our FYIs, general information about a resident. IV is for our IVs, lab for our labs. Meds for our routine medications. PRN medications will be all of our PRN medications. Psychoactive meds. This is where we're going to put all of our psychoactive medications. Anti-anxiety, hypnotic, antipsychotic, methylphenidate, lithium. These orders are going to go on the psychoactive flow sheet. Whether they are routine or PRN, it does not matter. They go on this flow sheet. The respiratory flow sheet for respiratory orders, such as your breathing treatments, oxygen orders, so on. Restorative, we currently do not use that one. We don't use standing orders either. And the final one is treatments. Treatments will be all of our treatment orders, or things that were on our TAR, our TAR. All of those orders are going to go in the treatment flow sheet. For a reference for all that I just spat out at you, there are cheat sheets that we have, and they're located in corporate documents. So please ask your CEC about that if you have any questions, and they can provide you with a printable sheet that would show you the examples of which types of medications go on which flow sheets. The next thing in line says may have annual flu vaccine. I'm going to wake that up. This says may have annual flu vaccine. So this isn't the order to give the flu vaccine. This is the order to say that we are going to offer it. We're always going to offer it. They can always refuse it if need be. So we'll keep coming down. Again, FYI, it's an NA for the frequency. It was missing its description. I had to plug that in real quick. You will not have to do that in your live database. Don't worry about it. The flow sheet right now is on general. Somebody might say, well, shouldn't this go on medication? But again, this is just the order saying we're going to offer it. It's not the order saying we need to give it. When that time comes, we'll actually put in a prescription order for the flu vaccine and put it on the medication flow sheet. My attending MD is who ordered it, and I'll keep moving. May have pneumonia vaccine, same exact thing as the flu vaccine. This is just saying that we're going to offer it. NA is my frequency, I'm good there. Flow sheet is general, ordered by my attending. I'm going to keep moving. Rehabilitation services, PT to eval and treat, OT to eval and treat, and speech to eval and treat. This is a brand new admission. All three of those departments will evaluate and treat this resident. So I'm going to say yes to this. In your live database, when you wake up this order, it will let me get the right date. It will automatically have a 7-day stop date for you. On this one, yes, all three are going to evaluate and treat, so I'm going to keep on moving. Again, don't worry about that. I'm just fixing some holes that are in our training database. Flow sheet is general, ordered by our attending MD. The next one online says may crush appropriate medications and mix with applesauce or other food source as needed. Yes, Our resident does have an order that they may crush. So I'm going to gather this information right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this whole thing, copy it, because I'm going to use it here in just a little bit. And I want this exact verbiage when I do use it. So I'll keep moving down. Flow sheet says general. Again, the argument can be made that this should go on the medication sheet. But what I was just talking about with me copying that order up above, I'm going to put it in those administration notes that we talked about first thing. That way, I don't need it to show up on my med sheet because it's going to show up under the resident's picture on EMAR. And if I'm using the paper MAR, it's going to show up at the top of every single page that I print that we may crush this medication. So I don't need to have that on the medication flow sheet. Ordered by my attending. May receive psych services. We do not have an order for that. So if we don't have an order for something, we just keep moving. Resident may reside on a secured unit. So if you have a memory care unit or an Augustus cottage, then your residents will need to have this order. Ours does not, so we'll keep moving. Give initial PPD. So yes, first day in the building, and they did not get it at the hospital, so we're going to give it. I'm going to wake that up. Notice that it is going to schedule it just for today, and it automatically put a stop date in of today by me waking up this order. So these PPD orders right here are real important that you do them when the resident comes in, because it's going to automatically build the due dates for these based off of today's date. So if you notice my frequency is changed, it no longer says NA or FYI, it says once, one time. So it's already picked for me. I don't need to change this. It's asking me to give it 1 a.m. to 11:45 p.m. Read within 48 to 72 hours. And down here we have vital signs, and we have temperature, pulse, respirations, all that good stuff that we talked about earlier. Now, we might be thinking that, well, in these med notes, it would be good to know the site of the PPD if we are giving that shot. So some people will check this box because they want a site. But if you notice, we already built a row for site in here for you. So we don't need it checked down on this box. So the golden rule that we're working with is it's always one or the other. We're never going to do both of the same thing. So I would never have site typed up here and check the box for site. What that will do is when you print this, or if you're on EMAR, it's going to ask you twice for the site. We only need it once. So I don't need site. Flow sheet is going to my medications. That's where I want it. Ordered by my attending. The next one in line is read initial PPD. So if I'm giving it, I also need to read it. So I'm going to wake that order up. Notice that my receive date is today, but my start date isn't until the 11th. Makes complete sense. We need to wait the 48 to 72 hours, so this is going to schedule it for at least 48 hours from now, with the stop date of the same date. So again, this is a once or a one-time thing. It's going to evening shift with the results. Flow sheets medication ordered by our attending. We're good. Resident may perform work-oriented tasks as desired in facility. Don't need that one. Give annual PPD. So if we gave the initial, we're going to need to start giving the annual. So if I wake this up, we're not going to do them back to back. Don't get me confused here. We're setting this up for then 2016 is what we're going to do. But we do not do that in the dates up here. Received by me, end date, there's no stop date because this is going to be an annual order. And if we look at the frequency on this one's a little bit different. It says Q month, every first Monday of every month. Now, if I look at these frequencies and expand them just like I did with the flow sheets, you're going to see we have a lot of options to choose from. But again, everything that we have in here, as far as the standard orders go, we built exactly how we want it to be so that we don't need to change this. If we look in the gray box, this is the first time where this is really starting to make some sense for us. The gray box is what's going to show up on your MAR or an EMAR. So it says once a day on the 1st of February, where our resident was admitted in November, so our annual is going to be in November. So once a day on the 1st of February, I want that to change, but I can't do that by typing in this box. You can't type in here. Please don't try. If you were to click in here and hit your backspace, since it's not a customizable field, it will kick you out of standard orders and you got to do these all over again. So don't do that. So right below that it says day shift, 7 to 3. So here's the rule in ASC. Our annual PPDs are going to be given on the 1st of whatever month they're due by day shift. They will be read on the 3rd of whatever month they're due by evening shift. And again, we built that for you already. We just need this to say November instead of February. The 1st is already there. It's already set for day shift. And if I come down and I keep looking, I've got my row for site already built in for me. And under my repeats, it's set to monthly, which is where we want it. And instead of every blank months, which the only time we will use this option is if that number remains 1. Every 1 month is the only time we'll use this. We'll never say every 3 months, every 6 months. If we have an order stating that, then we need to say choose months and pick the specific months that it's happening. So in this case, February has a check mark, but we want November. I'm going to uncheck February and put a check mark in November. Now if I go look at that gray box, it's like magic. 1st of November. Read within 48 to 72 hours. It's going on my med sheet, ordered by my attending. The next one in line says give 2-step PPD. We do need this one. We'll get to the read in the practice database. It won't let us move these around to have the one right under the other. So bear with me. Read 2-step. I'm going to wake it up. Notice that it puts it 14 days out from today automatically with the stop date. That's automatic. Again, it's a once one time. It's going to be done on day shift. Our day shift times were 7 to 3. Some of you might have to change these times when doing the standard orders, so please pay attention to them. Site's already locked in. It's already on my medication flow sheet. I can't change that. Ordered by my attending. The next one is the read 2-step. So I'll wake that up. Again, it's real important to get the initial and the 2-step PPDs added on admission because it's going to schedule them out from today's date, exactly how they need to be. And you can't change these dates on these orders right here specifically. So once one time, evening shift, ordered by my attending. There's my read annual, so I'm going to wake it up. Again, I'm not messing with the dates on the read annual. I come down here to the body of the order, once a day on the 3rd of February. So if you remember, I said our read PPD is going to be on the 3rd of whatever month it's due by evening shift. So to change February, how are we going to do that? Our evening shift time is good, 3 to 11. I'm going to come down here, uncheck February, check November. Now it says once a day on the 3rd of November, evening shift. The reason we assign them to days and evenings for the give and the read is so we can ensure the 48 hours has passed. It's going on my med sheet, my attending MD. Activity level, it wants to know what is my resident's activity level. So I'll wake this one up. My resident is up ad lib, wheelchair with assist. Now, up ad lib to some of you might mean that they can get up, they don't need any assistance, and that they can get around as easily and as often as they want to. Up ad lib for us means that the resident is able to tell you or voice that they want to be up. So every resident in our building is either going to be up ad lib, and the only way that they won't is if they are bed rest. So up ad lib, wheelchair with assist. My resident does not use a cane, a walker, a jerry chair, Broda chair, or bed rest. So I'm going to get rid of the rest of those. Up ad lib, wheelchair with assist. Nice and clean. No tasks to record. General flow sheet, that's where we want it. My attending MD. No PPD, complete annual tuberculosis questionnaire. So if our resident did have a positive reaction or was allergic, we would wake this up instead of the PPD orders up above. Resident is free from communicable disease, including TB in an infectious stage. And if you notice, another order starts right there in the description. I have reviewed and blank. So with this order, we have combined 4 orders into one that are standard on every single resident that comes into our building. So the resident's free from communicable disease. They have reviewed and concur with the interdisciplinary plan of care. The resident family is aware of medical condition and may use generic equivalents unless otherwise stated. The additional orders that we put in here are physician order signature for review and renewal of orders only required on first or last page. So this comes in with the recaps when they sign off on those every month or every 60 days, that this order tells them they only have to sign the first or the last page. And the last part of this says the same thing for the pharmacist. NA, that's good. General flow sheet, attending MD. We do have a daily weight for CHF. And we have weekly weights for 4 weeks. So if it's standard practice at your building that your resident gets weekly weights for 4 weeks upon admission, then we would wake this one up as well. Notice we have times 4 weeks in here, and the end date automatically is stopping 4 weeks from today. It's every week on Monday. So if we look, remember our PPD was set for the monthly repeat, and we had the option to choose different months. This one is set to the weekly repeat, and we can see every 1 week all the way up to every 99 weeks. And below that, we have choose days of the week. So we have all 7 days here, and Monday has been chosen. So we're going to do our weights on Monday. So depending on how your building operates, this could be a spot where we could add results as an additional note. And the results would then give us a place to enter or handwrite the weight for this order. Notice that weight is not an option in the vital signs here. That's for a reason. Your dietary will handle those weights and entering them. And someone might have asked at this point, well, why didn't we just drop a row like we did for site and results on those PPDs and put it in here? You can. Again, it's an either or. To do that, you would come over here to the right and you would say add row, and you want to add one of them. And I could type in results or result. But here's what we encourage you to do. Look at this list first, and if what you're wanting exists down here, always pick the box over adding a row and typing it in. The only time we will truly add rows is if we had something that was given to, say, day shift and evening shift on the same order, and day shift was required to document something different than evening shift was. An example of this would be TED hose. So if day shift is putting them on, we could drop a row for on, and we would have evenings listed down here below, where we could drop a row and we could write off if evenings were to take off, be responsible for taking off those TED hose. That would be about the only time we add rows. Everything else that you need, for the most part, is located down here. And it's easier to just check a box than it is to type. This is going on our medication flow sheet. Notice on the ordered by, it's just nursing names. So this is a nursing order. It's not a physician order. So on mine, I was clinical 18. It would be me. But something that I'm going to do on this one, notice that this is given to a shift. And this typically would go on the MAR, or the medication. And if you remember my rule when talking about these flow sheets in particular, anything that was shift-based and was supposed to go on the MAR, we're going to move to documentation. And I will click Save. Now we're looking at all the admission orders that we just put in. This took a long time because I had to talk to you and explain a lot of things to you. When you're actually doing this for an admission, you can cruise through this in 2 to 5 minutes and have it done. Really, because all we did, if you do them when you're supposed to do them, all we did was wake them up and put a doctor's name on them. For the most part. The only things we really changed were the PPDs on the annuals. That is about it, and a few descriptions that needed to be trimmed down. So I know this was long, but again, you'll whiz right through it. To finish out why I copied this May Crush order, I'm going to show that to you right now. And to do that, I'm going to come up here to my administration notes. I'm going to click on administration notes. And I have two boxes, one for administration, one for information. To type something in here, I'll click on edit. In the administration notes, I'm going to paste my May Crush order. And on information, let's say that the resident is hard of hearing and left ear approach from the right side. Save them. And if you look, now those orders are up here. And again, when I print my MAR, if I'm using the paper MAR, these will show up at the top of every single page. And if I'm using EMAR, these will show up right below the resident's picture during MedPass. So the next piece of physician orders that we're going to talk about are still some of those standard orders that we just went through. So we just added multiple standard admission orders for this resident. So with those standard admission orders, anything that falls under that standard order category of all the ones that we pre-built for you, they all work the same way. They all come in a long list that you wake up the ones that you want. You make sure your dates are right, your description is right, your frequency, your flow sheet. You just make sure those elements are correct in these pre-built orders, and then we save them and we keep on moving. So they all work the same way, but we're going to take a look at the standard dietary orders that we would also do upon admission. So we're going to come back over here to the Add Order button. And on the type of order, we're looking at our list. The second one in line is the Standard Order Dietary. So I'm going to select that one. I will click Next. And as you can see, these look just like the ones that we did before. Now, keep in mind with these orders, the standard ones, they're pre-built. They're just templates for you to use. So if you were to save some orders, like we did for the standard admission, and then if you go back to the standard admission orders, like you were going to add some new ones, you'll notice that every order that's in here, just like this, they reset to how they are originally, regardless of what you did before. But as long as you saved your orders, then they're good to go. These reset every single time so that if you were using them again, you would have the same template to start off with. So the first order we're looking at is the offer the bedtime snack. So we're going to wake that one up. Again, I know the date is different from the admission orders that we just did, so we're just pretending this is still the date of admission for the resident. So we're going to offer a bedtime snack for our resident, absolutely. We look down here at the frequency. It's already set up for QHS at bedtime. We look at our description. It says HS. That's already built for us. It's set for 8 p.m. And if you notice, we already added 2 rows for you. Those are accepted, refused, or sleeping. And if they accepted it, what was the percentage taken? The repeats on is daily because we're going to offer this bedtime snack every single evening. So we want it to repeat every day. The special instructions are already typed up for you, and it just gives you the answer key that A equals accepted, R for refused, and S for sleeping. The vital signs and med notes, we don't need any of these because, again, we built them for you up here, so we're good. This is going to go on the dietary flow sheet, and it's ordered by, again, we're going to use our attending MD. The next one in line says diet NPO. Now, our resident is a regular diet. So we're not going to use this NPO one, and I don't want to wake this one up and change NPO to regular, and I'll show you why here in just a few. So if my resident is not NPO, then I'm just going to cruise by this order. I'm not going to wake it up. Next one in line says may have pleasure foods. I'm good on that one. Now we get to one that says diet, and we have multiple choices. So the one that said NPO up above is just for NPO residents. This one, if I wake it up, looks a lot like the activity level that we did, like the code status that we did, where it has more than one option, and we need to limit it to just what we want it to say. So if our resident was a regular diet, then I would remove all of the other items that we have in here. So my diet's regular. My frequency is NA because we don't sign off on it. It's on my dietary flow sheet. That's where we want it. Ordered by my attending. And I keep coming down. So diet, this is for the liquids. So we do not need an order to say that the resident is on regular or thin liquids. That is standard across the board. What we want to know is if they have thickened liquids. So if your resident was on a thickened liquid diet, we would wake this one up. We would say thickened, and we would say whether it was nectar, honey, or pudding. Our resident's good. They don't need that order, so I'm going to keep moving. Right here, we have a fluid restriction. So if your resident was on a fluid restriction, you would wake this order up, and this one is all built for you already as well. So night shift will be the one tallying up all the mLs that were with meals, that were between meals. Days and evenings will be documenting how much was taken with meals, how much was taken with MedPass. So that's all built for you. So if you need that one, this is where it's at. This order says offer additional 120 mLs fluids with each MedPass. Okay, so maybe our order is for an extra 120 mLs every shift. We could wake this one up if that were the case. I would remove the MedPass part, and instead of it being QID or 4 times a day, I could change this to every shift. So now we have offer additional 120 ml fluids. Notice that I didn't type every shift up here because we say every shift right here. So if that were the case, when I pick every shift, notice it says days, days, days. Well, those are all the same shift, so we need those to be different. Each one of them has a little arrow pointing down. If we select that arrow, we're able to change those, and when I do here, it changes my times over here. So whenever we pick something that's Q shift, we always go nights, days, evenings. That's our order anytime that we have a Q shift frequency. Nights, days, evenings. This is saying to document the ML accepted. So this is a hint because we did not on this one include the row for MLs. So there's no dropped rows that say MLs on this order. This is your little hint saying, hey, you need to check the box down here for MLs. Otherwise, when we sign off on this, it's just taking your signature saying that you offered it. We need to know how many MLs they accepted, if any. So I check the ML box. Now here's a pop quiz for you. This is a Q shift order that would normally go on your MAR with all your other dietary orders. So a Q shift order typically go on your MAR. Our flow sheet is set to dietary, but which flow sheet does this need to go on? You are correct if you said documentation. Again, it's assigned to shifts. It's not a specific time. The bedtime snack up above was a specific time. It was 8 p.m. That one is fine to leave on dietary. These, you have an entire shift, so a shift order on the MAR goes to documentation. Next one in line is a house supplement. So you could put how many mLs they were to take. Your frequency would be how often they're supposed to take it. Again, we would want to check the ML box on that one as well. This one is for a supplement where you could type it in. So 2-cal, Ensure, anything like that. Same deal. How many mLs they're supposed to get with each serving. How many times they're supposed to get that a day. And we would check the box for mLs. Document in mLs all fluids taken with meds. So yes, everybody gets this order unless, again, they have an order that they would not be receiving mLs by mouth. So document in mLs all fluids taken with meds. It's already set to Q shift. Again, this says days, days, days. So we need that to say nights, days, evenings. I'm going to check the box for ML. And what flow sheet is this going to go on? It's assigned to shifts, and it would be on the MAR. Yup. So you're catching on. Documentation. Ordered by my attending. I save it. And now I am back out here on the orders page. So these are all the orders that we have put in so far. Not too shabby, right? Okay. I'm going to speak about the bottom down here real quick. So we had the search order history. To recap, I talked about this earlier. This is where we would find all of our discontinued medications. We're going to skip over the next few, and we're going to go straight to add order links. Now, if you're on physician orders and you have not yet converted to EMAR, then you are still using the paper MAR. So the order links come in real handy for those still using the paper MAR. Once you go to EMAR, the links really don't matter that much because everything's going to trigger when it's due. This is just more for aesthetic purpose. When you have the paper in front of you, that it's all nice and neat. So to show you how this works, I'm going to go ahead and click on Add Order Links. So what it did is it kept me on my orders page, but it popped up this little screen up here at the top that said linked orders, and right now there are no orders currently selected to be linked. So I will come down here to the list of all my orders, and some things that I do want to link, and I'm just going to link them in pairs. I want my initial PPDs linked, I want my annual PPDs linked, and I want my two-step PPDs linked. That way when I print these, when I'm all done with my admission orders, and I print them out, everything is nice and beautiful. So I'm going to start with my Give Annual PPD because it's the first one that I see in line. If I look over here to the far right-hand side, I have a little button that says Add Link. So I will click that. And if I look, it popped it up there in the top. So then I need my Read Annual. See, we've got 3 different read orders, so make sure you get the right one. Read Annual PPD. I'll add link. Now those are linked together. I'll save them. Now if I look, it says 1 of 2 linked orders and 2 of 2 linked orders. So those 2 are now connected. When we print them, this one will print right on top of that one. If I needed to ever break up a link, then if you went down to the add order links, if we look at these, my Give Annual and my Read Annual have disappeared. You can't link an order in more than one spot. So I'm going to cancel this. And if I'm looking back here, there's my Give and my Read. If I needed to break up this link, or if I had multiple things that were linked that didn't need to be, and I need to get rid of those links, then you would choose Maintain Links right here on one of your linked orders. When I do that, it pops both of them up here at the top, and I would have the option to remove if need be. I would also be able to, with these black arrows, if I had multiple orders up here being linked. So if we have a neb treatment, we're going to need observe before, during, and after, and the neb treatment. That's 4 orders we're going to have to link together. And if I threw them all up here and they weren't in any specific order, I could rearrange them by using these black arrows. So notice I just moved the read to the top, the give pop to the bottom, and I'm going to do it again. Now the read's at the bottom, the give's at the top. So if I wanted to, I could go back, add order links. Here's my 2-step. So that's my give 2-step. There's my read 2-step. And save it. So this tells me 1 or more of the linked orders has a discontinued or an end date. When this order is moved to history, all the remaining linked orders will be renumbered. So anytime that you're going to link something that has a stop date on it, it'll give you this message telling you that eventually this give 2-step is going to fall off before the read 2-step. So when that happens and this moves to the history section, because it's now DC'd, read will be the only order left in this link. Once the read goes to history, then that link will no longer be active. I would do the initial, but I did the admission orders yesterday on the training video. Today I was looking at the rest of these orders. So the initial is already done. It had a begin date and a stop date of 11/9. Today's 11/10. That order no longer exists. If I wanted to look at it, I could go to my search order history. Start date and an end date I could put in. Type of order, I could be specific if I wanted to. I'll search. There's my give initial PPD. Start date 11/9, end date 11/9. To get back out of this, the button at the bottom changed. Now it says view current orders.